There were a lot of no's. There continue to be a lot of no's. But every no teaches me something. Like every process of applying, process of interviewing, process of getting to that no gets me steps closer to the yes every time.
Welcome to Femme Forte, the show that amplifies the voices of women and non-binary creatives in music and the performing arts. I'm your host, Amanda DeFries. Is the starving artist label outdated? Kate Warren certainly thinks so, and she's got the receipts to prove it. Kate is an internationally acclaimed hornist, soloist with Blast, and a music educator using her platform to champion mental health and creative growth. In this episode, we unpack the link between learning, motivation, and well-being, plus how she uses social media to advocate for her musicians. This conversation was energizing, honest, and so validating. I had a blast chatting with Kate, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Femme Forte. Today, we have a very exciting guest. We have Kate Warren. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I know who you are. Can you tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Absolutely. So if you are listening to this podcast or watching this podcast, hopefully you already know me from Kate Warren Music, which is my online social presence. I am a French horn player, a music educator, and an online creator in the realm and industry of music education, and practice pedagogy. I live in New Jersey, where I am a college lecturer of music at Ocean County College, and I'm also the French horn soloist for the Japanese Blast Tour.
Yeah, that's amazing. Starting from that, did you always know that you wanted to do music and or play the French horn? Like, where did you get your start?
No, I did not want to do music at all. My parents are both artists, and when I was in middle school, you finally get to pick your elective. Sixth grade, you get to pick your elective, and I was like, great, I'm doing PE. And my parents said, no. You're going to do 1 year of band because it will make you well-rounded. It will make you a better person. And I said, no, I'm doing PE. And I lost that battle. And fortunately or unfortunately for my parents, I fell in love with band. I met a bunch of great friends. I really enjoyed the process of learning and developing my skill on a musical instrument. And that one required year of band turned into a lengthy musical career.
I mean, there's some people who always knew they wanted to do music, and then there's other people who music literally changed their life. So what was it for you after that first year of band where you were like, I want to do music for the rest of my life?
I think the thing that I fell in love with and the thing that I still cherish most about music making is the process of learning, because it was almost this guarantee where if I sit down and I work on something for a little bit of time, I will hear that it is better. And it's just that transactional guarantee of insert time, get reward. And I love that. I was like, oh, I can just sit down and work on this thing, and then I can immediately, it's like, yep, better. Yep, better. And perhaps that's why my personal French horn playing is so based in fundamentals and exercises working on technique, because it's still that effort reward system of insert practice here, reap reward later. And I loved that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, my brother actually is a French horn player, and my dad played French horn before him. And from what I know, I'm not a French horn player, but I know that it's not necessarily an easy instrument to pick up. So when you started that first year of beginning band or even beginning band auditions, was French horn your first choice?
So again, I did not want to be in band.
Yeah.
And I was very begrudged that I had to actually pick an instrument and make a choice in this band class I didn't want to be in. So we did the instrument petting zoo. The band directors played all the instruments, and you had to pick which one you wanted to do. You tried 3 or something. And I just sat there with my eyes closed, and I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to pick an instrument. And I picked one that sounded okay. I was like, that's pretty. And that was the French horn. And because it's apparently a hard instrument, which I didn't know when I was in 6th grade, not a lot of other people had picked the French horn. And my band director was like, you are going to play French horn. And funnily enough, I found out really fast that the French horn is really hard. And I was so bad at the French horn in my first year band that my band director asked me if I would consider switching to trumpet because it was easier. which made me really mad. I was and continue to be a very stubborn person.
You're like, no, I'm going to get this.
Well, no, exactly. And it sparked a fire under me like, well, I'm going to practice so that I can get better because I'm not going to be a trumpet player. And I did. And that was, I think that was when I found that process of, oh, if I sit down and I work on this, I get better. And then I sit down and I work on this and I get more better. And now all of a sudden, I'm not going to say my band director's name. My band director is like, Kate, you sound really good. And I was like, Kate sounds really good. I'm going to keep doing this. I like being told that I sound good.
In that, I mean, obviously you do the middle school thing through high school. There are people who, really enjoy banding until they get through high school. They kind of choose a different career. So was what you said earlier about reaping the reward of, your sound getting better is what continued to stay with you, like, through college? Like, how did you even foresee music being a career choice for you?
I have two avenues that I'll talk about for that. The first being I was good at two things in high school, right? When you're around the age, they're like, what do you want to do with your life? I was good at two things, and that was math and French horn. And I was like, okay, which one of these do I want to do for the rest of my life? Which would be like an enjoyable career to have? And I was like, not sure math is going to spark joy.
Yeah.
So I picked music. But the other half of that, I think I mentioned this to you before we started the podcast. Both my parents are artists. They're both college art professors. And they were really, and always have been really transparent with me and my brother about how growing up and our family unit and our lifestyle and the things that we could afford and do had to do with the career choices that they made. Like, they are both in the arts. They did not make a lot of money. Like, I didn't take French horn lessons until I went to college because we couldn't afford French horn lessons. And as I said, like, oh, I think maybe I might want to do music. My parents sat me down and had a very transparent conversation with me about what the first 20 years of a career in the music industry or like a creative industry would look like. And that meant that I went to college like with this crystal clear expectation of essentially like how broke and how much struggle and how hard and how non-rewarding it was going to feel for a certain amount of time. And of course, like as a kid, I was like, not me. I'm going to win a job with the New York Phil. Yeah. And now that I'm in that phase of life, I'm like, mom and dad, right. And I hope they watch that clip.
So, yeah, I mean, my parents were the same way. When I told them that I wanted to be a performance major, they're like, oh, you should probably also like minor at least in business so that you have some sort of backup plan. I will say my parents for the most part were very supportive of my music career, but both of my parents currently work for the Texas Workforce Commission. So their jobs are to literally help people get jobs. And so lots of times my parents would be like, yeah, I have clients that come into the office every day that tell me, they're an artist or they're a musician. And so they really wanted to put that reality check in me of saying, find something else in addition to have a backup plan for music. And I think so much of still to this day, like the arts and music industry, so many people have stereotyped it as being a very hard industry to get into, which is technically true, but I feel like so many people now with technology and social media have made their own like entrepreneurship journeys into making it work.
I think there's also a really great misconception about music careers and this idea of like the starving artist and like every creative deserves to be poor and starving and have it hard. And part of that I think stems from this idea like, well, unless you have a full-time health benefits 9 to 5, like you don't have a real job. You couldn't possibly be financially stable and secure. And so much of like the access to entrepreneurship that we have now is like, actually you don't. You like, I do not believe that musicians need to be starving. I do not believe that you have to have it hard to create a career in the arts. But I also don't believe that the only way to have a career in the arts is to have that hard, fast 9 to 5. There are so many ways that musicians and creatives can create successful, happy, healthy, and like financially lucrative careers.
Absolutely. And with that being said, I mean, that's something like as far as music and music education advocacy that you do through your own social media, through Kate Warren Music. So what kind of sparked the initiation of really being able to put yourself out there on social media? Was that really just for your own personal gain and your own career development? Or was this something where it's like, no, I want to provide a platform for other musicians so that we can make the music industry better?
Absolutely. So Kate Warren Music started when I lived in New York. It was January of 2020, actually, like right before anything happened. And I was rebranding my whole music portfolio. I was about to graduate my master's degree. I was going to be a freelancer in New York. I was like, okay, I need a website. People need to know who I am in order to hire me to play around here. So I made a website, and I was like, okay, I should probably I didn't have a regular Instagram until 2019 because my friends were like, how are you not on Instagram yet? And I was like, I'm a curmudgeon and I don't wanna. And then I was like, okay, if I need people in Manhattan to know that I play the French horn, that I live here and that I'm good at it, I should probably show them my French horn playing and who I am as a musician, or how I am as a musician. So Kate Warren Music on Instagram started as me putting practice videos up, and it was twofold. One was to help network in New York and make some friends and get people to hear my sound. And the other was I had all of these practice videos on my phone. I was taking them every day, and I was watching none of them. They were just rotting on my phone. And it was like, okay, we're going to post one video a week. And if I'm going to post that video, I'm going to listen to that video. Right? I'm not going to put a video of my playing up if I haven't proofread what that sounds like first. So it was twofold. It was to help market myself in town and to help my own practice, my own development by listening to those recordings. And through that process, I started... I remember really vividly, it was a Till Eulenspiegel, it's a French horn excerpt video I put up. And then I put a comment on my own video. I was like, here are all the things that I think I could do better at. Just that's just what I'm going to work on. And then the next week I put up another Till Eulenspiegel and I was like, here's what I worked on. Can you hear that? And people did. And they commented and interacted with that and told me whether they heard that progress or not. And I was like, oh, it seems like people really like this. And somebody had asked me on another one that I put up, oh, could you make these questions about XYZ excerpt? And I was like, yeah, sure. And it's slowly developed into this really pedagogical focused music online account. And I think that's something that makes my page stand out so much from so many of the other music accounts, whether they're memes or fun or music humor. It's the only things that are on my page are music education, are learning focused, practice focused, playing focused.
Yeah. I think, like I said, I've looked at your page and that's something that I really resonate specifically with. I'm not a French horn player, but I do like that there is an educational focus and really the advocacy side behind that. Earlier, before this recording, we were talking about the importance of mental health and especially mental health as a musician. I could speak to that as being a former music performance student, that those are the things that they don't really teach you. Of course, both of our parents were it's a hard lifestyle, but as far as even going through the process of being a music major, no one really prepares you for that.
Yeah, there's no college course on feels bad about your own career 101.
Yeah, so I think the fact that you've been able to provide a platform that really speaks to that and really helps students and also all musicians alike resonate with the educational piece, I think is really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also to that, I could also relate to what you were saying earlier about the website building. I think as far as promoting yourself, now that social media has become more and more important, some people are starting to learn more of that, and that's now just a baseline. But even back when I was in high school in 2014, 2015, no one was really saw the value of being able to create your own website or the value of how to promote yourself properly, because a lot of it was just kind of this perspective that you just kind of apply or you just kind of audition, and then hope and pray for the best, but really it's building some of those, let's call them softer skills of knowing how to create your own brand of yourself and promoting yourself out there along with the networking piece.
Well, and something that, like, I'm going to say the internet, but I mean like the way that we as creatives are presenting ourselves online, that is networking. Like the interactions and connections that we make on the internet fill the same purpose as the, like, oh yes, I took private lessons with the principal of this orchestra, so now I will take audition for this orchestra. And they create those same or very similar bonds.
Yeah, I agree. So as far as your career journey has gone, whether it comes to teaching or whether it comes to your recent gig with Blast, like, how, as someone who has always wanted to be like on tour and a performing musician as a job, like, where does someone even just get that opportunity? Like, is that just something that kind of fell into your lap, or are those opportunities something that you have to work towards or like seek out?
So I actually have two touring examples, and even I forget this, but I toured with the Dallas Brass, and it was actually a gig that I got when I lived in New York.
Oh, wow.
And it was like, I had seen the Dallas Brass a bunch when I was a kid. I had gone to many other, I was like, I love the Dallas Brass. And they put something up saying they had an audition, and I was like, haha, like, there's no way I could play with the Dallas Brass. But I was like, I'm gonna send a video in, that'll be fun. Like, I like this music already, I know this music already. And I sent a video in, and lo and behold, I applied to something and got it. and then COVID happened and the whole tour shut down and I didn't get to do it anymore. But I think that was my first just like, wait, I applied for something I thought I had no business being around.
Right.
And somebody said, oh, you, absolutely, yes. And my journey with Blast was not the same as that, but it also involved like picking something that I wanted and seeking it out and going and getting it. I marched a lot of drum corps. I marched 4 years of drum corps. I continued to teach in the pageantry arts. And when I marched drum corps, like, everyone was like drooling, Blast. And that dream had kind of died after COVID when they weren't touring anymore. But I had joined the IWBC, the International Women's Brass Conference mentorship program, at some point during COVID. And they were like, oh, what do you... I think I need to rewind. Right before COVID, I'd been thinking about sending an audition in for Blast. And COVID happened and I was like, well, they're not touring. Like, I don't, it's not worth sending a tape in. And I applied for this mentorship program and they were like, what are your interests? And I put on one of my interests, like Blast or like those kind of thing, like pageantry arts. And I got paired with Jordan Webb.
We love Jordan.
Yeah, we love Jordan. I got paired with Jordan Webb. She's a trumpeter. She tours with the U.S. Chicago tour and she tours with Blast. And she had just kind of mentioned to me in our mentorship, like, yeah, Blast isn't touring, like there's none of that going on. But I had told her, like, I'm interested in this if it happens again. And she came through town when I lived in New Haven, like 3 years later on Chicago tour, and was like, hey, Blast might be happening. Like, it was really tentative. They weren't sure if the tour was going or not. And she was like, Blast might be happening. And I was like, I'm going to email the hiring manager. And she was like, oh, yeah, wait till like Monday. It was like Saturday. I emailed the hiring manager 10 minutes after we left the coffee shop.
Yes.
and he said, oh, Kate, it's Donnie Van Doren. If you're a drum corps person, you probably know who that is. He's like, I remember you from blah, blah, blah when you marched Crown. And he would come do stuff at Crown. And then he was like, yeah, send me some tapes, like, get in here. Like, and I got contracted and then I got to be the French horn soloist for Blast. But again, that was one of those things that I was interested in doing Blast, and I went out and sought people who knew or had done it, Jordan Webb, got connected with people who could put me in that room, Donnie Van Doren, and then hounded on the opportunity. I didn't wait for him to call me. I didn't wait to hear that they were actually casting. I was like, so you're hiring me or what?
Yeah, that initiation piece is so important. I think a lot of times, even just outside of the music industry, a lot of people just kind of wait and hope to hear a response. But especially in the music industry, like, you have to show yourself as like a self-starter and like motivated. And so I love that story is like a great example of why it's so important, not only to jump on opportunities, but also to take initiative. how both in the you said Dallas Winds, correct?
Dallas Brass.
Sorry, Dallas Brass. Both in Dallas Brass and Blast. Like, how scary of it was it for you to like audition? I'm sure, you know, especially for the Dallas Brass, having that feeling of like, I'm probably not gonna get it. What kind of like motivated you just like, I guess, get over the hurdle of maybe some possible like self-imposter syndrome, of going for the opportunity?
Wouldn't it be cool if I got it? Like, even if I think, and I do this for tons of things. I had like a similar thing. I created an entire education course for Con and Selmer on how to play the French horn. They flew me out to Colorado. I filmed it for like a week, and I applied for it, and I was like, I have no business doing this, but nobody can say that to me if I don't apply.
Yeah.
So like, how cool would it be if they gave me this opportunity? And then I got the phone call, and it was like, okay, I guess I got to start doing that now.
Yeah.
It's, I don't know, it's that idea of like, the only person shutting you down in the beginning is you.
That's
like,
so true.
Your limitation that says, no, I can't do this, so I just won't even bother trying. Let somebody reject you. Let somebody tell you no.
With that, like, yes, of course, we're talking about, you know, all the highlights and your accomplishments, but I'm assuming there were a couple of no's before you got those big yeses.
There were a lot of no's. There continue to be a lot of no's. But every no teaches me something. Like, every process of applying, process of interviewing, process of getting to that no gets me steps closer to the yes every time.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And like, I think is really, really cool kind of how you mention, specifically how like networking is such a big aspect of that. I actually have a story for you, about Jordan, because I know her. Jordan actually helped me get, let's say, I guess, my first gig working for SeaWorld. I had worked for SeaWorld before in high school as like as a guest services person, where you had to say, have a whale of a day, which I definitely said and then look back to it till this day. But I think it was like 2022, I think. Jordan reached out to me. Well, backtrack. I know Jordan because she was a tech when I was at Crossman Winds. Not necessarily directly teching percussion at the time, because I was in like the front ensemble part of it, but I just like got connected with her and had like remained Facebook friends ever since. But then I got like a Facebook message from her. She worked as I think like a casting director for this entertainment company, and they were hiring out musicians for like a little mini show at SeaWorld. And that was something at the time I was still working at UTSA, and I wasn't sure if I was gonna be able to work that job and also do my full-time job, but I made the schedule work. It did work, in fact, and that was a wonderful opportunity. And like I said, goes to how keeping those networks after all that time, because I, you know, from 2022, like I think I met Jordan like 2017, 2018, and really hadn't like spoke to them since. And so it was like crazy that at the time the stars aligned and they had thought of me of saying, hey, like, we're looking for percussionists in the San Antonio area. I thought of you. Do you want to audition? And I was like, sure. And again, same thing where I was like, I'm not going to get it. I have not picked up drums in 2-3 years, because at the time I'd taken a short break from music. But actually it was that opportunity that I started to have like a healthier relationship with music and started to really enjoy playing again.
That's amazing. And I know, like, especially for like pageantry related things like theme parks and touring gigs, like one of the things Jordan is working on is how much of a lack of transparency there is with hiring on that. And I know she started her own casting company. I think it's called J-Web Casting, to help put opportunities for like theme park gigs and touring musical gigs and make them more available to the general public. So it's not just a who knows who, hire your buddies situation.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think especially because it has been such a who knows who, and it's really being able to provide more opportunity to more musicians, as well as kind of help with we're starving artists and we don't know how to navigate, you know, this industry. So I think that's like a pretty awesome opportunity. So with that being said, I want to touch base back on the social media and like mental health side of things. I mean, we were talking a little bit about this earlier, but I know some of your content specifically has dealt with the mental health side of being a musician. Why has that become so important for you to put content on and also just be an overall advocate of?
I think it's applicable. Not only is it applicable to me, it's applicable to everyone. So my company, Kate Warren Music, has 3 pillars of the type of content I put out. It will be about music education, personal self-promotion, or mental health and well-being in the music industry. And that's because like those, I think, are the 3 most important things to me. Like I do need people to know who I am, so they hire me to do stuff.
Yeah.
But music education is what I do, and I want I think everyone deserves access to knowledge, access to information, and I want to share it as much as I can. And back to the conversation that we were having earlier, is there is so much stigma and like entrenched unhealthiness in the music industry around like work-life balance and self-talk. And who would I be to put myself into the music education sphere without addressing that huge, massive Eiffel Tower in the room of a lot of musicians have a really negative relationship with their practice and their performance on their instrument.
Yeah. Is there been specifically any moments for you, whether it was you in school or even you currently now, that have had difficulties with mental health that is also kind of led the trajectory of advocating more for mental health?
Of course. I've had many of my own voyages through different levels of mental health, but I've also had a lot of different relationships with my practice on the French horn. Like I love the French horn and I will play it until my lungs give out and can't do it anymore. I've had a year where I hated the French horn more than anything in the world, and dragging myself to put that mouthpiece on my face was the least enjoyable thing I did all day. I've also had, like the year I'm having right now, I'm in my first year of a full-time college teaching job, and I'm overwhelmed and drowning in a full academic load. And I have no time to practice at all. At all. Mm-hmm. And I love the French horn and I want to be playing it as much as I can. And I actually just put out a piece of content last week about it. It's like, and I'm lucky if I get 15 minutes a day. And that's a really different relationship with my practice and my musicianship than I've ever had before too. And I spend a lot of time being like, you just need to practice all weekend to make up for it. Or like, you need like bargaining with myself or like getting down on myself because I'm not playing as much as I want to be. And none of those things help me play more. And none of those things help me have a healthier relationship with music. So like being able to sit down and dissect them and say like, okay, these are my feelings, this is my situation, how can I XYZ? And again, who would I be to tote all this stuff in the music education industry without saying like, you want these tools too? I just like sorted through a couple of them for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe this could help you do it too.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I think especially, is that something that you teach your students outside of like social media?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My private students and I have lots of conversations about what is a realistic expectation for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. At least for me, like I said before, in college, that's something I deeply struggled with. And I don't think, as far as in my experience, too many of my professors had really talked about it. So I think that's awesome that you're paving the way for the next generation of students and also helping in that specific field, as that is not talked about very often. Teaching and performing, 2 very different sides of the coin. What have you found fulfilling from both ends? So if you want to kind of touch base on obviously performing with Blast and then now in this teaching job, like what are the differences and what are the 2 different sides of the coin that you enjoy doing most?
I love both of them. And I think what I actually learned on the Blast tour this past summer was that I can't have just one. Not enough. Like I was like, because I loved being on the Blast tour. It was the best experience I've ever had in my life. And even in that, there was always that little neg of like, hey, you're not doing any teaching. Why don't we do some teaching? And you're like, well, all your students are a 12, 13-hour time difference away. That's not going to happen. But like being able to have both, or whether it be at the same time or in waves like I'm doing right now, it's just really fulfilling for me. Like especially with the Blast tour, I love being able to combine to combine the performance aspect of playing as well as like physical performance, which any pageantry person is like, yeah. But HIIT's really different than like sitting in the orchestra and playing an orchestra concert, which if you know me in real life as a French horn player, like that's not my favorite type of gig. Orchestra gigs don't do it for me the way a lot of like going on the Blast Tour or going on the Dallas Brass Tour does. But also like being able to work with a student, especially like in a one-on-one setting, and help them create that progress pathway that I love so much, and like watching them fall in love with it, watching them use it and it work and then be happy with themselves, like is really fulfilling to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I normally some people that I know either really prefer one or the other, so the fact that you like enjoy doing both is, I think, really, really cool, and speaks to honestly the content that you're doing, because like you said, your social media page is, parts of you, or started with you practicing and having performance clips, then now has transitioned to the more educational piece of that. And even just in the way that you're talking about it, it really shows that the advocacy and education part is something that you're really passionate about.
There's actually another element of it for me too. Mm-hmm. I mentioned at the beginning that my parents are both artists. Yeah. I didn't get to take private lessons when I grew up. And a whole lot of how I got information about musicianship and French horn playing was from like the IHS website, the International Horn Society's website, and their resources. This blog called Horn Matters by Dr. John Erickson in Arizona State University, and this old podcast called the Mellowcast, like these online resources about music education. And that was how I got better at music. And I have been very privileged with the music education that I've received since then. I went to Florida State for my undergrad. I went to the New School for my master's degree. I went to Yale for my second master's degree. And not everybody in the world gets access to that kind of knowledge or that kind of education. And because online resources were so vital to my development as a musician, like that is also a really big part of why I do what I do on Kate Warren Music, because I have so much knowledge that 99% of other horn players won't ever get access to. And it, like, again, like, who would I be to gatekeep that from other people? Like, when I could just put it out there.
Right.
It's like, I can't force somebody to learn it. But if they want to learn, I want it to be there.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I've said this on every episode this season, and I'm going to say it again. But the thing I live and die by is that with privilege comes responsibility. And I think exactly what you said speaks to that. I think it's so important to not gatekeep people out, and also when you're at a place when you feel comfortable, instead of building a higher fence, you build a longer table. And I think that is so important. I mean, in general, like our community, our industry needs to be more inclusive so that we can hopefully one day people not being like, you're gonna be a starving artist. Like we gotta bridge the gap somewhere. Yeah. And I think it's so important and so amazing that even with your diverse set of like education and experiences, you are kind of giving back to what you've been able to build for yourself. And I think that's really awesome and really important.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do have something I'd like to get into, and that is, why has it been so important to you to focus on gender and equity in brass playing? Because I know that's another kind of pillar that we haven't really talked about, but I know that's something that's really important to you.
So my research focus is on gender disparities in brass playing, specifically in higher education. But I've also spent a lot of time looking at gender disparity in the orchestra. And a lot of that, you're a percussionist, so I think you probably have had similar experiences to me. Shockingly, there are still not a lot of women brass players out there. And again, I have artist parents, and every time I mention this, like they're like painters and printmakers, they're like, what do you mean there aren't, like, what do you mean? And I'm like, listen, I'm in the most conservative of the arts.
Yeah.
And like, that's my lived experience. I very often go to a gig and I'm the only woman in the brass section, and it's 2025. I am the only woman who works in my department at my job right now. I have very often been the only woman on the drum corps staff that I teach at. I think I've been the only woman on every single brass staff I've taught on. To start. And then I've helped change that, because that's also, again, like with privilege comes responsibility. Like that's my lived experience, and that is the lived experience of so many other people. And the only way that we can increase access and increase ability and opportunity is to put it somewhere that people can see it and make that information available. I'm working on publishing some research right now that just does like really basic statistical analysis of like gender in the orchestra and gender in higher ed. But no one has published that data since 1997.
Yeah.
And it shocked me. I was like, really? No one has done this most basic statistical analysis since like, I'm not going to mention when I was born.
Yeah.
But like when I was born, like that's crazy. Like nobody's going to make a change unless they can see proof that it needs to change. So.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, part of the whole reason why this podcast exists is to lift more women and more people of my own minority like in our field, because it's so important. And when you look at it, there's not very many resources out there. And so I think that with your research and with what you're doing is so important, and that's why I really am excited and wanted to have you on the pod. So again, thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and I think what you're doing is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're just about to wrap up here, so I have a couple lasting questions for you. One being is, knowing the knowledge you have now, what advice would you give your younger self? So even if it was, 6th grade you being so reluctant to join band, what advice will you tell yourself?
I think as like general music industry advice that I have for other musicians out there, do it when you're scared, do it anyway. Do it with the confidence of a privileged white guy who's going to think he deserves it. Seek mentorship, seek connection, seek people who want to help you and like want you to help them, because there are lots of people in the music industry who don't care about you. And that's okay. They don't have to, like, you don't have to care about everybody. But when you find someone like Jordan, like who cares about you and is investing in you, invest in them. Like, seek opportunities to learn from people who want to teach you. IWBC has a mentorship program. It's not just open to women. It's open to anybody who wants to be a part of it. There are dozens of other mentorship programs within the music industry. And unlike like maybe having a professor who's just happy to get you out the door at the end, like people who want to be mentors in mentorship programs want to help you, that they applied to be a mentor, and they are going to be invested in helping you grow, and take advantage of as many opportunities for that as you can.
Awesome. That's amazing. And the final question that I have for you is, what's the biggest piece of advice that someone has told you that you've stuck with throughout your career?
Do it with the confidence of a privileged white man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for being on the show. Where can our listeners and viewers find you? Any social media websites you want to plug?
You can find me anywhere online at Kate Warren Music. That's Kate Warren Music on all social platforms, katewarrenmusic.com. Anywhere and everywhere, it's Kate Warren Music.
Awesome. Thanks so again for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Femme Forte. I hope this conversation left you feeling inspired, empowered, and just a little more connected to your own creative journey. Be sure to follow today's guests and support the incredible work they're doing. You can find all their links in the episode description. And if you enjoy this episode, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, leave a rating or review, and follow Femme Forte wherever you get your podcasts.